I want my head coach to be in the moment and be very measured and, just focus on winning the game. What's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Ben Kruse. This is another edition of Moving the Goalpost. You can follow us across social media at this podcast at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Ben at Ben Kruse144. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network, and you can listen to Moving the Goalpost wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe. And this show is presented by Playback. Stay tuned for later in the show to find out more. All right, so you're probably having a better week than I am. This is the worst sports week, probably one of the worst sports, might be the worst sports week of my life. And it's not just because of my teams, it's also because of the gambling. I guess it could have been a little worse, but this past weekend was a weekend of just bad beats all around, and I was on the wrong side of most of them. Some of them weren't even bad beats per se, like something that would make Scott Van Pelt's segment, but some of them were just bad beats in general. Like they were just like, I had games where they were just bad beats in general. Like there's no way the game should have gone this way. So it wasn't a bad beat per se, but like it wasn't so basically all outside of one game, I was on the wrong side of every single bad beat. Think about this. I had the Rams and I had the Bucks. I was on the wrong side of both of those bad beats. And by the way, I would rather the Jets have won the game, but I lost both. The Jets lost, so it doesn't matter. And on top of that, I also lost my bet. So I literally lost. I lost on the spread, and I also lost and my team also lost. But we got to talk about this Eagles-Rams. Yeah. I will have to say, this Eagles, I kind of feel like this is the worst beat of all time. It's the worst beat of all time for a few reasons. Forget the whole, the big, the lineman blocking the kick and then running to the end zone. Like if it wasn't a big fat guy, he probably just would have slid down. But whenever like a big fat guy like has an opportunity to score a touchdown, they always do it.
They want the moment.
They want the moment. But it's not just that. The Rams were up 19-7 at the half. There's no reason why the Rams should have lost that game.
No, well, at the half, but they got up 26-7 in the third quarter. So and crazy. I was like kind of following that game when I was watching the Pats game, and I don't know if it's just me, Nick, and this could be a little bit of a hot take for me, but I'm gonna go with it because I was just thinking about it before the show. The Philadelphia Eagles right now are kind of reminding me now of the new, well, I want to say the new Chiefs, but like the NFC's version of the Kansas City Chiefs, in which they always just seem, no matter how they're playing, they always just seem to find a way to win these type of games. And now, obviously, like the people talking about the tush push, obviously that could be like another story for another day. But like, it just feels like now, like people that are non-Philly sports fans are kind of getting sick and tired of the Eagles. I don't know. I mean, for myself personally, I have nothing personally against them because we beat them in the Super Bowl, but obviously they beat us. But like the Eagles right now, I mean, I think they're on a crazy winning streak right now where they've won like their last 15 of 16 or something. So like maybe it's just the fact that they're just finding ways to win. But like, I mean, the Rams really had that game in the bag. They were up 26-7. And I mean, they should have won that. But heck, I mean, give the Eagles credit. They just feel like a team that, never say die mentality. And it only takes a little bit for them to kind of get themselves back in, and you can never really count the team out. So, really tough one for the Rams, but a big one for the Eagles to continue that crazy win streak they're going on right now.
Well, the thing is, I kind of disagree a little bit. Like Philly, I think that Philly teams, or at least Philly teams, are usually hated outside of like legit rivalries, like Met fans hate the Phillies and things like that. That's just to be expected because that's a rivalry. But I think people hate Philly sports teams because of their fans.
Right.
I mean, Philly sports fans are the least I would say, have the worst reputation amongst fan bases. And I don't really hate teams because of fan bases. Like, I don't know. It has nothing to do with, like, I don't really care that much when it comes to fan bases. Like, when it comes to rooting for teams, I don't take it that personal. But in general, I think that Philly sports teams are hated because of the fans. For some of the same reasons, Boston and New York teams are hated because of the fans. I think there's some truth to both those things. But you know what? I think that Philly fans are just, I think that Philly sports fans are just losing versions of Boston sports fans. I think that those.
I think you did tell me that. Yeah.
But they really are. I think that Boston and Philly have a lot in common. They're both smaller cities that aren't too far from New York and are rivals with New York teams. I think that I almost think that Philly, and this is not even a sports like observation, but I would argue that I think that Philly is like the Walmart version of Boston.
Interesting.
But like they're both small cities, not far from New York.
History. Yeah.
What's that?
They both have good history.
Yeah. Both have great history. And except Boston is a more desirable city to live in than Philly, generally speaking. It just is a more desirable place to live, and it's also a more desirable place to be a sports fan. Not that Philly fans. I mean, look, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl, and they won 7 years before that. It's not, but in general, Boston wins more than Philly.
Right.
So, so I think that being like Philly sports fan, like I think that Boston sports fans are exactly what Philly sports fans would be if they won a lot more.
Okay.
And I think both of those cities have reputations for being just like the worst fan bases in general. And so I think that's a long-winded way of me saying that I think the reason that I really just don't think there's a lot of Eagles fatigue right now. I think people just don't really like Eagles fans. Whereas I don't think it's the same thing with Chiefs fatigue. And look, I think the whole fatigue thing is extremely overrated and is a very in the moment thing. It's like, it's such a minor thing. It's one of those things where it's like, if you have an issue that you're thinking about, like right now, a couple of years from now, you're not even you're gonna forget that you even thought about it. Like it's that type of thing when it comes to Chiefs fatigue or something like that. But I don't really think there's any Eagles fatigue, unless you're a Giant fan or you're a Cowboy fan and you just don't like them. But I don't think there's a lot of Eagles fatigue. And I think the reason for that is because of the Chiefs. People have a lot of Chiefs fatigue.
I'll counterpart. Sorry to cut you off, but I was just thinking, I'll counterpart, though, with that is if the Eagles win another Super Bowl then this year, the next couple of years, does that maybe, of your point, potentially change at all with the fact is like, okay, maybe they're starting to build something a little bit like the Chiefs just did? Because right now, I mean, to me, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, heck, he might win another Super Bowl down the road, but it's really hard to do what at least he did kind of to start his career. Or just really, really is, and kind of to keep kind of what he's going right now. But if the Eagles win another one, I mean, back to back, right? That's obviously, if you win another one, I mean, you never know. You just never know.
Yes, that might be true. But I also think that, like, I think you're right. I think that changes things drastically if they win another in a row, especially if the Chiefs getting off to a slow start, if they don't go back to the Super Bowl, maybe the Chiefs fatigue will like fade away a little bit. But that has to actually happen first before it sets in. Like, it hasn't happened yet. There's no guarantee the Eagles are going to come out of the NFC for a second year in a row. But the thing with the Eagles is that you have to compare with the Chiefs, which is why, like, I think the public has a lot of disdain for the Chiefs because, first of all, they remind them a lot of the Brady Belichick era. I mean, like, it's almost like we've seen this before. Like, we've seen an all-time great head coach with an all-time great quarterback. that creates a dynasty. So it's very similar to what we've seen before. The other reason, which I think that there's more Chiefs fatigue than there is for the Patriots, is that the Chiefs is very much, I would argue, they're kind of like an elitist type of team. You know what I mean? Like they're very much like the celebrity class of NFL teams. You have Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift, or now engaged to Taylor Swift. So Travis Kelce is now like a huge part of like the pop culture aspect outside of sports. And I think that creates a lot of disdain amongst a lot of football fans because they don't like that. Like they don't like that part.
And the fans essentially that are coming in that legitimately are like not even Chiefs fans, but they're Chiefs fans, technically speaking, because of Taylor Swift.
Right.
Which I think a lot of NFL fan bases are like, oh, like, look what the wind blew in. Like, now we obviously have to deal with this.
Right. And no, that's 100% true, which was not a thing with the Patriots. The other is, the perception, at least, that the Chiefs get all the calls, which I think is very embellished. I mean, some of it is just very much cherry picking. But yes, it is part. Now, some of it is just that Mahomes knows how to game the system. That's not so much the Chiefs getting favorable calls. That's Mahomes taking advantage, which is another thing. So they're very much like the Chiefs are very much represent everything that a lot of sports fans. They're the celebrity team. They're the team that is a dynasty on paper and all of that. Whereas I don't think that's true about the Eagles. The Eagles, if anything, are more of like a so-called blue collar type of team. It's all the Eagles are full of, in a weird way, underdogs and likable guys on the team. Like it's easy to root against Mahomes and against Kelce because they're traditional favorites and kind of in the celebrity class. Whereas with the Eagles, it's like, all right, their quarterback is Jalen Hurts, who is the ultimate underdog story. It's easy to root for Jalen Hurts. He's a really easy player to root for. He has a good attitude. He's likable generally. And he's also, for us college fans, we remember when he played at Alabama. And when he was at Alabama, he wasn't good. In fact, people forget he was benched in the national championship against Georgia. Alabama was losing at halftime. They replaced him with Tua. Tua comes back, wins the game. Jalen Hurts doesn't, transfer. He doesn't whine, doesn't complain. He just works harder. And then the next year, Tua got hurt, I think it was, in the SEC championship against Georgia, and Jalen Hurts won the game for Alabama. And then he transferred to Oklahoma and was a Heisman contender. So the point is, Jalen Hurts is the ultimate underdog. Nobody would have ever thought that 9 years ago when he played at Alabama, nobody thought he could even sniff the NFL, let alone win a Super Bowl. And also Saquon Barkley, who is not as much of an underdog, but like he's spent so many years on the Giants and was just way too good of a player to play on a team like the Giants, and is also very likable, and then wins the Super Bowl. So in a weird way, the Eagles, even though the fans are generally don't have a good reputation, the players on the Eagles are easy to root for.
Correct.
And the other reason is that I don't think the public anticipates the Eagles to be a dynasty the way the Chiefs were. Like, I think the public really hated the Chiefs last year, especially because they thought they were going to win the third Super Bowl in a row. And they had good reason
to. God, no.
And the thing with the Eagles, the other reason that the Eagles are not hated as much is that, like, it is something different.
Yeah.
It's something different. It's like the Chiefs are almost in a weird way kind of the same of what we've seen from every other sort of dynasty or Super Bowl winning team, which is you have an all-time great quarterback with an all-time great head coach. That's and a good defense. And that's how you win Super Bowls. Whereas, I mean, you have Jalen Hurts, who hardly even throws the ball. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a legit running quarterback. Doesn't throw the ball a whole lot. I mean, yesterday he threw the ball. He did throw the ball 32 times, but like
it was because he was down though, so he had to.
Right. Usually, I mean, if you look at Jalen Hurts' stats, he usually doesn't even throw the ball past 5 yards. I mean, in the game that they won against, that the Eagles won against the Chiefs, Jalen Hurts threw for 101 yards.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's throwing the ball a fair amount, but it's very short passes. And so, this is something that we don't usually see from NFL teams. So that's why I think there's a lot less Eagles fatigue than there is Chiefs fatigue. because it's just that like there's all sorts of reasons for it. The other reason is that like, you know, the Chiefs beat out the Bills and they beat out the Ravens. We haven't seen Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in a Super Bowl, all because of Patrick Mahomes. And we're like, I think and I think the public has the attitude of, I want something a little different. I want to see the Bills get to the Super Bowl. I want to see Lamar Jackson get to the Super Bowl. And we haven't seen it because of Mahomes. And also, I just think the NFC is a more interesting conference right now than the AFC.
Yeah.
The AFC is very top heavy. But outside of 3 teams, it's like nobody's sure about any team in the AFC. I mean, sure, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens are the haves, and everybody else is just like, I don't know what to feel about any other team. I don't know how to feel, even with Joe Burrow, I don't know how to feel about the Bengals or the Chargers or the Broncos or the Texans. I don't know how to feel about any of those teams. And so I just think the NFC is, oddly enough, more interesting, is how I would put it.
I 100% agree. It kind of reminds me, to be honest, like, I hate to cross sports, but in baseball, like, I feel like the National League wildcard right now, I think, is a little more juice right now. I mean, AL has definitely brought it up, but like a lot of the season, it was kind of more the National League really kind of had the moment in the spotlight. The same thing. I mean, I think you pretty much were right specifically about the fatigue with the Eagles. And I think maybe it's just kind of my point potentially would stand if they win another Super Bowl. I think the fans specifically are obnoxious, but like I'm not going to sugarcoat, like our fans could be very obnoxious too, because
it's not like New York fans are super polite.
yeah. I mean, let's be real. Most fan bases have their bad ones. It's just more the fact that there's just some bad ones, you know, in some cities. But I think, you know, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. I mean, I looked at that Eagles team last year and, you know, good for them. I mean, that's obviously like players and stuff. Like I can look at them and be like, that's, you know, good guys to root for. The Ravens, another team. I don't really like the Ravens because we played them a lot in the playoffs. I mean, I do really like the Lamar Jackson, and I want that team to succeed, and I want to see them win a Super Bowl at some point. And then the Bills, I mean, the Bills obviously are in both of our divisions, but I mean, Josh Allen is arguably, I mean, he could be looked at as one of the best. I mean, he is one of the best quarterbacks in football, but like if he gets that Super Bowl ring, in which he should be, I mean, the standard of what he can be the rest of his career is just limitless because he basically has almost everything else besides a Super Bowl ring. So I know obviously I'm kind of going a little off, but like, yeah, it's just everything really has its own standard. And the biggest thing is if you could be able to meet the standard, and the Chiefs specifically, they met this standard for the last couple of years. Even though they didn't win the Super Bowl last year, they still had a great run. And it still could happen. I mean, the thing is, Andy Reid's obviously getting up there in age. Chiefs fans are starting to really kind of lose their cool with them this year, for sure. Let me tell you that, even though it's been only 3 weeks. But I can't also underestimate that Chiefs team either, because the last couple of years they've gone off to some tough starts, and look what happened. They were in the Super Bowl. So it's like it's 3 weeks in, you know, it kind of like the Bengals. The Bengals the last couple of years have had really tough starts, and they were legitimately a game away last year, Nick, for making the playoffs. I mean, you don't know. You just really don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Also, I do want to. We have to talk about the Jets. I guess we briefly mentioned it. They lose to the Bucs, and Aaron Glenn is dancing on the sidelines before the game even ends. This was when Will McDonald blocked the field goal and ran it back for a touchdown. And I understand that there's a little bit of a rush that the Jets just tied the game and you're thinking we might win. I think it is unbelievably embarrassing for a head coach to be dancing on the sidelines before the game even ends. They didn't even take the lead. They tied the game.
Yeah,
it was the extra point. For all you know, Nick Folk might have missed the extra point for all we knew. Yep. And there was 2 minutes left in the game, more than 2 minutes left in the game, actually, I think. And or maybe a little less, whatever the case was.
It was like a minute 30, I think.
Yeah, it was a little less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The point is that that's an eternity in the NFL. And especially with the Jets, with the way that the Jets have been playing, they never got a stop when they needed it. And I don't understand why you're going to dance on the sidelines as if you already won the game when it's not even close that you already won the game. And I think it's a bad look. It's not a bad look when a player does it, if they score a touchdown doing end zone dances and things like that. But a head coach, that is just embarrassing. If you're doing dances, if you're dancing on the sidelines before the game even ends, look, it is not a job of an NFL head coach to be a cheerleader. I want my head coach to be in the moment and be very measured and, just focus on winning the game. That's what I want my head coach to do. He's a defensive-minded head coach. The Jets were about to go on defense. Be focused on getting the stop. Don't be celebrating. Focus on getting the stop. How many coaches do you see doing dances on the sidelines?
Not much.
And something like that happens. I don't think I've ever seen that. And if they do, that's not a good sign. I want my head coach to be a leader, not to be some type of cheerleader. So this is just ridiculous. And look, you're not. I think that this comeback win the Jets coming back in this game says a lot more about the Bucs than it does about the Jets.
Yeah.
I think it really does. The Jets had no business being in that game.
No.
I mean, first of all, the way the first half ended was just, I don't know if you saw.
I didn't really see much of it, but I saw the end.
Tyrod Taylor threw a pick.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
At the end of the half. I don't know what they were doing there. It's not even like they were going to score on that drive. I mean, that is just such a bad throw. He threw it, and he threw it. It was a pass to Garrett Wilson, which Garrett Wilson planned on catching, but he threw it a little too short, and Jamel Dean picked it off and ran for a touchdown. And it was just such a stupid, bad play, just really sloppy, and ending a half that way, just giving away 7 points. Well, it was just that can't happen. That really just can't happen. And you can't expect to win games that way. But for me, I think this says more about the Bucs than it does about the Jets, because the Bucs did a very similar thing against the Texans. It seems like the Bucs give up these big leads late in the game because of bad special teams play. I mean, this is not the first. I mean, this similar type of thing happened against the Texans last week when their punt got blocked and they spotted C.J. Stroud in field goal range, and Nick Chubb ran in for a touchdown. C.J. Stroud was not moving the – C.J. Stroud was not getting down the field last week.
No,
there was no way they would have scored a touchdown, maybe a field goal at best, but because they spotted the Texans in their own territory – Nick Chubb ran in for a touchdown. They almost lost that game because of it. And it's similar. The same thing happened with the Jets. The Bucs just keep having these special teams blunders. It seems like when they have these really big leads. And Aaron Glenn was happy after the game. He was clapping, cheering on the team. He was happy because they almost won. Are you kidding me? You're 0-3. That's the fact that you're 0-3 is what matters. It doesn't matter that you almost beat the Steelers. It doesn't matter that you almost beat the Bucs. It matters that you're 0-3. That's the part that I care about. I mean, the Steelers and the Bucs are average teams. They're average teams. They should have won. Look, they probably should have beaten the Steelers, and they were lucky. And no, they shouldn't have beaten the Bucs. They were lucky to be in the game. And by the way, look, not for nothing, there were a few calls in that game, crucial calls that were very questionable that went in favor of the Jets. I didn't think that the catch on the sidelines by Ibuka, I didn't think that was a catch. I didn't think it looked like he got both feet down, but they could have called it the other way.
The one on the left sideline or the right?
I think it was the left sideline.
I think they called. Oh, okay. Yeah, that one was complete. It was the one on the right. I think they called it incomplete.
No. They called it incomplete. and they could have called it a completed catch, but they didn't.
Okay.
Although I think it was probably the right call. I didn't think he got both feet down. But the touchdown that the Jets scored before they blocked the field goal and went in and ran in for a touchdown, before Will McDonald blocked the field goal, was a pass to Lazard. And I got to tell you, I don't think that was a catch. I mean, they didn't overturn it because they didn't have 100%. They didn't have indisputable evidence that it wasn't a catch. But I don't know. If you look at the replay, I didn't think that was a catch. And most of the time, that is not called as a catch. So the Jets were very lucky in that sense. And that was fourth down. That was fourth down. So that would have been it. Like if they didn't call that a catch, they're not even in that game. So the Jets were very lucky to even be in this game. They had no business being in this game. In the first 3 quarters, it wasn't even close. So there's no reason to even be that happy about this loss. You had an opportunity that you're not going to get. How many times are you going to block field goals and run in for touchdowns? It's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen again for the rest of the year. It might not even happen again for another 2 or 3 years. Like that's not going to happen a lot. And to me, it's like, I don't want a head coach that sits there and is just happy because they almost won. Like that to me is embarrassing. Aaron Glenn marketed himself as a no-nonsense head coach. No nonsense. The guy who ends up dancing on the sidelines before the game even ends, that is the most nonsense shit I've ever seen. That is nonsense. So it's just so frustrating. Aaron Glenn said he didn't want to hear same old Jets. I don't like the term same old Jets because it's not like the Jets are a cursed franchise. They're not. They're just run by the same idiots. Like, I don't believe in any of that nonsense. But look, we have no reason. Look, you're 0-3. Are you a new Jets? This is not new Jets. You're 0-3. Like, that's what matters.
I have some stuff to talk about this game, Nick, and I obviously didn't get to watch the whole game, but Aaron Glenn, we talked about this hire for the Jets on one of our shows before the season started. I think we both were pretty much agreed on we weren't really all for it, right?
I was not a fan of the hire at all.
Yeah.
But I was always willing to give him a chance. Like, I never said at any point that he couldn't do it or that he couldn't be a good head coach.
Yeah.
But I had no reason to believe that he would be a good head coach, especially given that it's like you're just hiring another defensive coordinator with Justin Fields, a young quarterback. So you don't even have an offensive-minded head coach. I'd rather have an offensive-minded head coach with a guy like Justin Fields. And it's like, this is the same thing we've been doing all over again. I mean, we might as well have just kept Robert Saleh for another year. Like, that's kind of how I saw it. And I think a lot of Jet fans like this hire because he's a former player, which doesn't mean anything. You can be former players don't always make good head coaches. So I just thought I thought it was a bad idea. I wanted them to hire Rex Ryan or Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Like, Rex Ryan at least has a good track record, and Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. Say what you want about what happened since, but I mean, like, you can't take that away from him. So there's at least something with Doug Peterson. But Aaron Glenn, I just didn't like the hire at all. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
So the reason why I was just saying is because I remember in his press conference, he was basically kind of talking about, I think, culture and just how we're going to be a tough, gritty football team, and we're going to, I think something about the lines like punching, against the other team specifically throughout these games. And I've been seeing a lot of Jet fan podcasts and stuff after these type of games. And basically they're saying is where is that type of stuff that he basically emphasized? I mean, the fact that you basically were dancing with about 1:30 seconds left. I know obviously you took the lead, so of course it's in the moment, but the Buccaneers legitimately a week ago had the exact same situation that they were in. Baker Mayfield with that Bucs team, I just don't think was not phased. I don't know where that came from, specifically from Aaron Glenn, in terms of the fact that you're dancing when the game's not even over yet. And like you said, the game is not even – they didn't even take the lead. they literally tied the game up. So granted, he's essentially dancing for potentially not even taking the lead. He essentially danced because it was in the moment, and they blocked essentially a field goal. Which, granted, Nick, you obviously know the rules now with the blocked field goals or whatever. Maybe it was just me, but I thought maybe he jumped early. Maybe it was just me. I mean, obviously,
it was a legal play. It was definitely illegal.
Yeah,
it was a legit blocked field goal, but like, how many times is that going to happen? Like, you can't. Maybe like it seems to happen to the Bucs a lot. It seems to happen to them because they have so many special teams gaffes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is, it's not going to happen. It probably won't happen again for the rest of the year.
And then another thing too that you didn't get to mention, but I thought it was something that was very interesting, was Mike Evans got hurt in the second half. So the Bucs specifically, I feel like, were stalling a lot because they were without Mike Evans. I think if Mike Evans pretty much was kind of still around with the team, Mike Evans is, obviously Baker's number one guy. They basically probably score another touchdown or probably, extra points, in which the Jets aren't even in this position. And then, of course, that fourth down that obviously that the Jets scored was obviously a call which, the Jets were favored in as well, too. So the Jets also had some stuff kind of given to them, that second half. And it's like the Bucs are kind of giving them that game. And then basically at the end, the Bucs are like, okay, we have a chance essentially to basically snatch it from them essentially after we gave it to them. It was almost like kind of a give it, take it type of thing. But yeah, I mean, for him to smile, I saw that after the fact. Not only you danced, where essentially you basically didn't even win the game yet, and then you smiled specifically after the fact because of a moral victory. I just think that's a bad look. I mean, maybe if you won the game, okay, I can understand that. But the team is now 0-3. You've had a really, really tough start to this year, and I think it's just an awful look.
They're 0-3 with two of those losses being missed opportunities. Like they could easily be 2-1.
Same thing with us in the Steeler game. And I'll talk about that coming up. I mean, that game.
So, and the Jets, they have to look. It's not like they're supposed to make the playoffs this year. They're not supposed to. But I will say there are a lot of games up there. The Jets' upcoming games, a whole bunch of winnable games coming up on their schedule, all the way up until like November. I mean, next week they play the Dolphins, then the Cowboys, then the Broncos in London. They're probably not going to win. They're probably not going to beat Denver. And then the Panthers at home, and then on the road at the Bengals without Joe Burrow. And then they play at home against the Browns and on the road at the Patriots. And then their schedule gets a little bit tougher. But you know what? The Jets, they have like 6 of their next 7 games are definitely, they're not going to win all of them, but 6 of their next 7 games are very, very like winnable matchups. They're all matchups the Jets should at least be able to win. They're not going to win all of them, but all those games, like all those games are very much winnable. I mean, look at Dallas. Dallas's defense is the worst I've ever seen. I mean, they gave up 37 points, I think it was, to the Giants. Like Dallas's defense is just a hot mess right now. Like the Jets playing them at home, that's actually a winnable game for the Jets. I mean, I'm sure the Cowboys will be favored by a couple of points, but I mean, that's a winnable game.
And CeeDee Lamb is currently hurt now.
Right.
So I don't know when you guys play him, but right now, currently, I think CeeDee Lamb is right now going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. So if that, obviously, you don't know how he's going to be when he comes back. I mean, heck, even Caleb Williams, who was looked at as a bust last year, obviously with the Bears. I mean, granted, obviously, it's only really his first year, so you obviously can have massive sample size. But Caleb Williams was getting ridiculed left and right, and then yesterday puts up 3-4 touchdowns in one of his best games passing. So Dallas's defense essentially is doing it to Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams. These are not specifically, Josh Allen out here. So heck. So I think, I think you guys would definitely win that game.
Well, the thing is that it seems like every team that the Cowboys play, they're throwing to like wide open receivers. Like the Bears yesterday, they were throwing Caleb Williams was throwing to wide open receivers.
Yeah.
Which, frankly, I don't even know how to feel about the Jets having wide open receivers. I mean, if Justin Fields is back at that point, which I don't know if he will be, I mean, he's not very accurate. That's certainly an issue with Justin Fields is his accuracy. The other is that the Jets receiving core isn't all that good. And I highly like the Jets. I would say, as bad of a defense that the Cowboys have, the Jets are a pretty easy team to stop. They're a pretty easy team to stop.
Very run heavy. Yeah. Like, they even said it before the season. I saw a reporter out there that said Jets offense, most times than not, it's going to be a heavy running type of team. No shit. I mean, we pretty much know that. You got a running quarterback with inaccuracy issues. So essentially, it's a ground and pound, and you're basically going to have to win by your defense. That's essentially kind of the way that the Jets mentality is going to be.
That's very similar to the Jets mentality for most of my life as like a ground and pound team that plays smash mouth football team, as the saying goes. That's kind of
if it's smash mouth, by the way, too.
Yeah. So So the thing with the Jets is that, look, there's some expectations for the next 6 of the next 7 games, and actually their schedule isn't even all that difficult after that. Then they play the Ravens and then the Falcons. I think both Ravens you can forget about. They're playing the Ravens on the road.
Even worse.
And then they play the Falcons at home.
I guess
well, the Falcons just lost 30-0 to the Panthers. I don't know what to make of the Panthers. Like, that's weird. The Panthers are usually bad, but then they have like these little flashes where they're good.
Well, maybe the Falcons are just overrated too. We don't know.
Yeah, but it happens. I think the Jets probably lose to the Falcons. But then after that, they play the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Patriots. 3 more very winnable games. Look, I don't think they win all of them. But, like, I would say for the rest of the season, I guess you could say they have 9 games that are very, very winnable. Even 9 or 10 games that are very winnable. So they should be able to win some of these games.
I think you split with us. I think you split with us.
I could see that happening too, although overall I think New England's a better team. I think there's a good chance the Jets split with the Dolphins and the Patriots.
Yeah, the Dolphins are,
I think both of those teams are still better teams than the Jets. As bad as the Dolphins have looked, I think they're better than the Jets. They'll beat the Jets, I think. Now, by the way, Aaron Glenn coming in, and this is a good lead-in to your Patriots losing to the Steelers.
All right.
Moving on, him making the decision to move on from Aaron Rodgers without any sort of backup plan, essentially. I mean, instead, they just ended up getting Justin Fields, and now we're playing with Tyrod Taylor, was a really stupid move. It was a really stupid move. And I said it at the time. I thought that, look, it's not a great situation with Aaron Rodgers, but it's better than what we have now.
Yeah.
Hey fans, Novig is here to change the way you play. Available in 35 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and New York, Novig is America's #1 sports prediction market, and it's 10 times more profitable than traditional sports books because there's no house edge. Instead, you're betting directly against other sports fans just like yourself. Novig is also the only free exchange, which means you keep every dollar you win, whether you're putting plays down on the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, college sports, or even UFC and tennis. Novig gives you the power to pick the best odds, or better yet, set your own. Sign up today with the code ETB Network, and you'll get 1,000 Novig coins plus $5 in Novig cash, and special bonus offers like spending $5 and getting $50 back. Novig, where fans play smarter. You must be 21 years or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Moving the Goalposts is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, rubbing your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. We're going to lose sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. Aaron Rodgers was at least okay with the Jets, and he's doing okay now. I think that's a much better situation than Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's an old backup quarterback that's just been around the league. Justin Fields has completed less than 30% of his passes last week. There's no way the Jets are better off with their current quarterback situation than just keeping Aaron Rodgers. They would have been better off with Aaron Rodgers. And the Steelers beat the Patriots 21-14 yesterday. I know you definitely watched this game. You're a Pats fan.
Yeah. I was not happy. I told my brother this. I told countless people about this.
Your therapist?
No, I did not tell my therapist.
I'm kidding.
I probably should have been a little more clear in terms of I didn't tell everybody, but I had to go to the grocery store after the game was over. I might as well tell everybody at the grocery
Talking to the cashier.
Yeah. But no, this game, the Patriots should have not lost this game. And 5 turnovers, and you had, Drake obviously was part of it. He obviously the first interception that he had. Granted, it was right after he got absolutely slammed to the ground. Could have been concussed for all we know. And then 2 plays after, it was basically a booted ball that Cam Hayward had, and it was right to the guy. That would have tied the game up. The Steelers, I think, Nick, and this is going to come right here. People want to come at me all you want, but I'm going to say this right now: the Steelers are an overrated team. They're an overrated football team. What I saw yesterday was they essentially, the Jets could have beaten them the first week too. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, still can play from what I can at least see, but he doesn't have the deep ball like he used to be. They essentially are very short passes and maybe explosive passes here and there to DK. And they don't really have much of a running game. Jalen Warren, I think, is kind of more of a catching back, so they don't really have a power running back. Their defense gives them a lot, specifically still being the ground. The fact is, Nick, that we had 5 turnovers and they were right there for the game, for the taking, just makes it so much more frustrating because, if we maybe limited like 2 of those, fumbles, maybe had, 2 fumbles and maybe Drake doesn't have a turnover, we win that game maybe 27-14 or even 20-14 instead of us losing. So, you were talking about obviously Aaron Rodgers being coming back for the Jets. I thought Rodgers looked fine, but I don't think it was because of Aaron Rodgers we lost this game. I think it was just kind of more the fact that we beat ourselves. I was talking to a bunch of Steelers fans after the game too, and they didn't really seem that they were happy about it either. This is kind of like a game where both teams really weren't happy, but it was more of like the Patriot fan and in me was just so frustrated because we had that game. If we just obviously just didn't beat ourselves constantly.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's similar to how I feel about how I felt about the Jets. But look, the Patriots I would say, are still in a much better situation right now than the Jets. Now, you think the Steelers are an overrated team? I disagree. I don't think the Steelers are overrated. I don't think anybody even knows what to make of the Steelers. The Steelers are, if anything, you could argue an overrated franchise. I guess you could kind of argue based on how they've been in recent years. But I don't really, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody thought the Steelers were going to be so good.
True. I just think,
last season you could argue they were underrated, at least until Thanksgiving, and then everything fell apart. I think Mike Tomlin is kind of an overrated head coach.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Steelers this year are really overrated because nobody really knows what to make of them. But I don't think anybody really has them as their favorites to come out of the AFC. The one AFC team that I think is overrated is Denver. I think Denver is a little overrated because people were all like, that they were everybody's pick to come out of the AFC West because of Chiefs fatigue and all that. Right. And I think that they're a little overrated. But no, I don't think the Steelers are overrated. It's just that they're just not great, and nobody knows what to make of them. I think the best way to put it.
Maybe I'm being a little too harsh because I think the Steelers are just kind of really who they are. Is they essentially are a mediocrity, 9-8 type of team. It's kind of like who they are. I just think maybe the fact is maybe I expected them to be a little bit better with kind of what they brought in. I mean, they brought in DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, essentially, who's still not playing at a really bad pace at this point in time in his career. And I thought that their defense, though, to be fair, Nick, wouldn't be as bad, at least so far. I mean, heck, it could be changed. Sure. It's only 3 weeks. But the fact that they've given up, 25 plus in the last couple of games, I mean, granted, the Patriots should have scored more than 14 points easily if it wasn't for the 5 turnovers. So, I mean, they had a couple of red zone opportunities. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson fumbled the ball. The second time he fumbled it, essentially was literally right where it was a touchback where the Steelers essentially got the fumble. I mean, I think maybe there's a little bit – they're not as good as maybe what people make them out to be after all the additions maybe they had. So maybe that's where I'm kind of overrating them. In terms of the actual team, I think that's just kind of who they are. Is they're just kind of be probably a team where, they probably like 9-8, maybe like the Chargers like last year. But it's kind of who they are. But I just thought that like the additions maybe that they brought in, it just kind of made it out to see maybe that they were supposed to be having more expectations. Maybe that's just me.
No. What you're saying does make some sense. So also, I don't know if you saw the 49ers beat the Cardinals 16-15 in what was just a shit show of a game.
Yeah.
Really weird score. I saw that that the Niners, it was a tied game and it's 6-6. It's a 6-6 game. I don't know if you saw this. This was crazy. No. I never thought it's late in the third quarter. It's a 6-6 game. The Niners go for it on 4th down, 4th and goal in a 6-6 game. I was flabbergasted when I saw that. It's a 6-6 game. You're hardly scoring at all. Both teams are hardly scoring. And you go for it on 4th down. That made absolutely no sense to me. And sure enough, it didn't work, although I thought it probably should have been a penalty. McCaffrey got lit up. It looked like, to me, he was hit before the ball even got there. So I thought that was probably a penalty. I could be wrong about that. But I don't know. That's a crazy decision to make there. Go for it on 4th and goal. But somehow, I mean, the Niners ended up winning anyway, but I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and I think what was it? The Cardinals had a chance at the end there, and the Niners obviously stopped them. I picked the Niners to win, but they won at a cost. And I don't know if you saw this, Nick, but Nick Bosa, their pass rusher today, unfortunately had some bad news. He tore his ACL, and he's going to be gone for the remainder of the season. So, you have to win. Win's a win, and they're 3-0. But it came at a massive cost because, the Niners specifically, they were absolutely injury riddled last year in terms of where they wanted to be. Obviously Brock right now is hurt. George Kittle obviously is hurt. Nick Bosa is obviously now gone for the year. So, the Cardinals, I just think the first 2 weeks of the season, they played against the Panthers and they played against the Saints. They really weren't great teams, obviously, kind of on paper, so they should be able to beat them. But I don't know. This was kind of just one of those games where it's kind of per se. I don't know. Mac Jones, obviously, I love my guy Mac, and he obviously had the game-winning drive, but he ain't no Brock. Brock Purdy, I think, is just a lot better in terms of their system. And obviously with him being out, obviously it was a massive thing for them. And Brandon Ayuk, him obviously being out too. That's obviously a big weapon that they've missed. So they have been missing some guys, granted, but this was just kind of just one of those games where it's just somebody had to win. And the Niners obviously pulled it out. They pulled it out essentially on a game-winning kick by a kicker that wasn't even starting for the season for them. So,
yeah. By the way, speaking of kickers, the Giants didn't have a kicker for most of the game against the Chiefs. I'm not going to talk about the game.
Yeah.
But then I saw at the end of the game, Graham Gano did go in and ended up kicking. So I guess he was able to kick, and he looked totally fine. Look, what do I know? But he's totally fine. Why is it that the Giants are always the team that doesn't have a kicker? That's why they lost to the Commanders last year, because they didn't have a kicker. I've never. It seems like it always happens to the Giants. I don't. Are they just woefully unprepared? But could it be the case that like any team could this happen to any team? Like I always thought it was super weird to me.
Yeah, no. Obviously, in terms of the game, I don't know how much you watched that game last night, but Russell Wilson was throwing. I mean, Russell Wilson obviously throws a deep ball a lot. It feel like he was throwing just like ad nauseum last night. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is he throwing just so many like deep passes, like passes that really weren't even close? And then I'm thinking to myself, all right, if the kicker's hurt, maybe they're just kind of saying, listen, we can't get even into the red zone right now, even if we stall, because the Giants offense, Nick, I think most people are not. They're not going to be a touchdown heavy type of team offensively. They're just not. They don't have the personnel specifically to have them. I mean, yeah, Malik Neighbors obviously hell of a receiver. But they don't really have a lot of the guys that screams to me they're going to be scoring a lot, like the Bills. They're not going to be a team that's going to be scoring a lot via the touchdowns. So, I mean, when Graham Gano essentially, this was basically after the pregame warmups apparently, and he essentially, got injured, and then apparently I was listening to Dayball presser after the game, and they basically asked him about Graham Gano, and he basically said, well, he couldn't kick in the first half, and then he was kind of, I guess, limited in the second half. And then, yeah, I saw the kick that he had also too, and it looked okay. So I'm very surprised too that the Giants, out of all teams that have had kicking issues, that they don't have a backup kicker. I mean, even like the punter definitely should at least have some reps, because you just know for a fact that's been one of their massive Achilles heels the last couple of years. And the fact that like the guy goes down, it's like, okay, now it's like you're not even giving the guy a chance. And the Giants too, they elected also to not go for it on fourth down 10 points to Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, obviously the Chiefs offense has been kind of stalling as of late the last couple of weeks, but like the Giants are just compared to the Jets obviously have kind of their own issues. The Giants have a lot of confidence right now, and not in a good way.
Yeah. So I want to get into some college football. Clemson lost to Syracuse.
Yeah.
And this, so basically they're now 1-3. The crazy thing about Clemson now is that they look the best. The best that the Clemson has looked this year has been their loss to LSU. It's bad when the most impressive you've looked is in a loss.
And they even looked great in that first game against LSU.
I mean, they lost the game, which is what matters. But at least, like, when I saw that game, I thought maybe they'll be okay, because you can lose the first week. It doesn't tell you a whole lot. But then against Troy, they needed to – so their only win is against Troy. And they were down 16-0. They needed a comeback to beat Troy. Like, it was a terrible win. So they looked bad every single one of these games. And, look, it's against Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
Right.
Like these weren't games on their schedule that you would look at and be like, Clemson's got to watch out for these games. The funny thing is that actually this season, that's exactly how Miami got knocked out of the playoffs last year. They lost to Syracuse and they lost to Georgia Tech, but it was at the end of the season. So at least they had some hope going in. Miami had some hope for most of the season. Clemson, it's just over now. Like, they lost to Georgia Tech and Syracuse early in the season. And it's crazy for a team like Clemson to be effectively eliminated from from playoff contention at this point when they play in the ACC. They play in the ACC, like the second weakest conference in college football.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Of course, a lot's going on with Dabo in terms of like what the latest could be in his future with Clemson. That Clemson, that defense is not Clemson that I remember and love. It's kind of the track in between them and Alabama, at least the last couple of years, is just they're overly. I don't say the fall off has been crazy, but I mean Clemson per se. They've been a very good home team, Nick, and their tenure there. They've already lost 2 games at home and hasn't even made it to October yet.
Yeah,
so, which is incredible. I mean, they have a bye after they have a bye this upcoming week, and then they have at UNC and Bill Belichick, in which, granted, UNC doesn't look great at all either. But it wouldn't shock me if Bill ended up seeing Dabo on their side and like, listen, like, I want to win. We're at home. I want to win. I mean, this Clemson team isn't, the Deshaun Watson Clemson team, of past where they were just a juggernaut, right?
Yeah.
And then they go to Boston College, and Boston College, I don't think BC is great per se, but they have one of the best quarterbacks right now in college football that nobody talks about, and Lonergan. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I also really want to quickly say about Syracuse is my prayers go out to the quarterback. I don't know if you saw Steve Angeli, who's been one of the best quarterbacks right now for Syracuse. Right now in passing yards, I think he tore his ACL throughout the game. They were in a weather delay. He came back in after the game was over, and then he went down. It was just brutal because he was playing really, really well. And that's why I thought Clemson had a chance potentially to lose, because this kid was incredible. I saw him obviously, beat UConn the week before, but yeah, Clemson is just. I mean, Cade Klubnik too. I mean, Cade Klubnik obviously, I thought was all right last year, and I thought that's maybe why Clemson was not going to be too bad this year, is because Klubnik was coming back. They had some guys kind of coming back, but man, it just looks so discombobulated. The Clemson team this year that I've really seen in past years. So we're gonna have to see what happens.
Well, yeah, I think that Dabo Sweeney was just never able to adjust to the NIL era. I think that's really just what it was. I think Clemson probably just doesn't have as good of players as they used to. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, similar to what happened to Alabama. I think that a lot of these teams that were dominant during the NIL era are just much less dominant. Like post COVID, I would say Clemson has been way less dominant than they were. It's also true that everything is kind of cyclical. It's not just about NIL and the transfer portal. Everything is cyclical for all sorts of complicated reasons. I mean, we've seen we've seen it with everybody, I would say, almost everybody, for reasons we've seen Mac Brown at Texas. He was great in the mid 2000s, and then he just wasn't good. And then the team kind of just fell off. Texas was a joke for a huge portion of my life. Now they're back. But I guess everything in college football is just sort of cyclical in a sense. I do want to talk about this, by the way. We didn't do much college football, but if you want to hear more college football, you could tune into Forever Power 5.
There you go.
On Friday. So the Mets are collapsing right now. This is so unbelievably bad. This is so disappointing. It's worse than disappointing. The Mets have a billionaire owner who went out and made some really great moves. He went out and he signed Juan Soto to a record-breaking deal, something that Met fans could have never imagined.
Yeah.
Less than a decade ago. And, the Mets this year had expectations.
Yeah.
Not making the playoffs doesn't cut it. Having a winning record doesn't cut it. And it would be, I don't know if it would be quite as bad as the 2007 Mets collapse, but the recency bias in me makes it feel like this is worse in a sense. In some ways it's worse because the Mets just lost they couldn't even take the series. They couldn't even win 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, a team that has nothing to even play for. They couldn't even take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. It's like this team, they just can't play under pressure. It seems like. I mean, Sean Manaea, who was just re-signed this past offseason, he gave up 3 runs in 3 innings. He's just been terrible lately. They would have been better off keeping Quintana instead of Manaea. People talk about everybody talks about the bullpen, but it's not just about the bullpen. Sometimes the starting pitching is so bad. I mean, if your starting pitching is only lasting 3 innings, you're not beating anybody. They couldn't, and it's not just everybody wants to talk about Soto, but overall Soto had a pretty good year. I mean, he wasn't that much worse than he had last season. It's just he already hit over 40 home runs. His batting average is a little lower, but he hasn't really been all that bad. It's really, if anything, just a team problem. It's really just a team problem. And the whole thing is just a disaster. The Cedric Mullins signing was a joke. The Mets right now are a disaster. And I think it's interesting to see like what will happen in the offseason if the Mets end up missing the playoffs. With an owner like Steve Cohen, who's very quick to make moves, I think that's a question. But it's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. Now, part of me is not surprised because they were heading in this trajectory all this time, but we no longer control our own destiny because the Reds have the tiebreaker.
It's been crazy. This has been kind of on a trajectory for about 3 months now for this Mets team. We talked about off the air that they went on a 9-game losing streak. Their bullpen essentially couldn't catch a break. Guys like Helsley and Rogers, a lot of these guys would blow it. The rotation during that stretch would actually not be bad, but then it was one of those things. And then it would be the hitting. And then they finally, I thought that one of their top points of their overall season in the second half was beating the Phillies at home. And, Phillies obviously, Met fans always saying, well, heck, I would obviously love to have home field for the playoffs because we know for a fact that the Phillies essentially would play us over there. No, they wouldn't want to play us there. And then it was about a week later where they went to Philly and they basically had the payback. And then they beat the Padres 2 out of 3. So I was like, all right, maybe they're kind of going back and stuff. They brought up the kids also as well, too. Jonathan, Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproats. So the Mets essentially, and this is one thing I do credit the front office for, is they tried. They essentially, you can't essentially blame it all on them. The fact is they went out, they signed Juan Soto to a record-breaking deal. They brought up the kids essentially through three of their top prospects and a starting pitching rotation that needed it. Kodai Senga is, was supposed to be one of your top guys in the rotation. He's not even pitching great down in AAA right now. So I think he's kind of more of like, if they make the playoffs, what are you going to get out of Senga, which I think is definitely something to worry about. David Peterson, who had an incredible first half, he's definitely kind of hitting a regression right now to the mean. Against the Nationals, you had in that Saturday game, you had Brandon Nimmo, less than 2 outs, with a chance to win it. And if you take 2 out of 3, it's like, well, that last game, it sucks, but you at least won the series. Now you lost 2 out of 3 to the series. Now you're out of the playoffs, and now essentially your season is legitimately on the line, in a expanded playoffs with a ownership like Steve Cohen. It's like you said, it's not acceptable. If they don't make the playoffs, Nick, this essentially is the complete 180 of what the Mets had last year. And with the Mets essentially were like the miracle Mets. They essentially had to go to Atlanta. If you remember, obviously the weather thing that happened, which they had the doubleheader. Francisco Lindor obviously having that massive homer. I think it was in that Tuesday or Wednesday game or something like that. So if the Mets won that first game, they were instant locked to make the playoffs. And obviously, you guys were going high at an all-time rate. That last weekend series really didn't mean much. And obviously, everything was kind of the rest from there, where they were a couple more wins away from making the World Series, and then obviously a magical run. And now essentially a year later, it's completely a 180 after legitimately getting Juan Soto, which you think, we'd probably be more increasing, potentially winning a World Series. Instead, you could be not only missing the, obviously going in the decline, but potentially missing the playoffs as a total whole. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And, the Mets, I would say last year, my analogy would be like, last year, the Mets were like freshmen in college, and this year it's like they're upperclassmen. Like last year, you can like party and do all sorts of dumb things, but now like we have expectations for you. Or maybe like last year you could say they were in high school, now they're in college. That's what the Mets are. It's like last year it was all cute and everything, and there was no pressure, and now it's like we have expectations. Yeah. And I guess that's the biggest difference between the Mets last year and the Mets this year. And look, the OMG Mets is not going to happen every year. Every year, you're not going to be the lovable underdog where one of your players puts out a hit song. That's not going to happen every year. Mm-hmm. And I kind of anticipated this, not a collapse, but I anticipated like more pressure on the Mets this year. but this can't happen.
Unfathomable.
It's completely unacceptable. Now, if they end up making the playoffs as the third wild card team, then okay, fine. It's all fine. But if they miss it, if they continue to play like this, I don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but I guess you could say we all want answers.
Yeah. No, I think regardless, honestly, if they make it or not, but if they miss it, I think it just adds the pressure of, it could be a long off season and for not great reason.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's our show this week. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Ben Kruse. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Ben at Ben Kruse 144. You can follow this podcast at MTGPETB. And yeah, I'll be back with Johnny next week. So see you guys then.
See you guys.